If I stop because it got hard or because it wasn't perfect enough, this whole thing will be done. Well, the whole train will be off the rails and we won't go anywhere.
Eventually, content creators reach a point where they say, I need to get serious about how I think about creating content, which is usually followed up by, there are way too many things to do and so little time to do them. What do we do when we reach that point? Meredith Marsh is a content creator, coach, and the founder of the Video Pursuit Society. She's built her content creation into a business that not only supports her family, but also enables her clients to create online businesses with YouTube so that they can be the boss of their own future. Get ready to take notes on a critical mental shift that will change the way you think about your content, and then how to put that mental shift into action while balancing your time and everything else happening in your life. Welcome to the Story Greenlight podcast, where we're all about empowering creators like you to tell your stories, connect with your audience, and create the impact that you were put on this planet to make. My name is Jeff Barch. I'm a coach, author, and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience shaping content for ABC, NBC, Universal, Disney, Apple, and a whole bunch of others. My team and I support YouTube creators with followings in the hundreds to the many millions. At Story Greenlight, we believe that you matter, your message matters, and the world needs to hear what you have to say. Meredith Marsh, good to see you virtually. It seems like that's pretty much all people do these days.
Yeah, it's great to see you too.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, so the last time we saw each other in person was at the People to Video conference this past fall. And I'd never actually been to Albany. But looking at your bio on your site, you talk about living in farther upstate New York, where it's much less of a city kind of a vibe.
Yes.
What's it like where you live?
Well, I live more west of Albany. I like to say it's in the middle of nowhere. My neighbors are cows. We have a lot of Mennonites around us, so we have a lot of like horse and buggies going by. It's pretty rural, but it's quiet and it's kind of nice like that.
Nice. Yeah, I grew up mostly in South Dakota and Iowa in some pretty rural areas myself. So I get that. Usually my neighbors were not cows. They were just fields of corn.
Right.
But, it's that same kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
So in terms of people who are not familiar with you other than what they've already heard in the introduction to this episode here, you've not always been a content creator. I'd be curious to know how you got started in creating content.
Well, I actually set out to be a blogger. I thought it would be fun to write blog posts and figure out how to make money doing that so that I could quit my job. And back in, if we go even further back than that, I was a freelance web designer. So I taught myself how to build websites, got myself like local clients creating websites. And then I took a full-time job as an in-house web designer, which, as I already explained, I live in the middle of nowhere. So to have a local job doing anything like web or tech related and not have to commute an hour each way to go to work somewhere was fantastic. So
Yeah.
I took that job. I worked in-house, kind of like doing web stuff, social media marketing for a local company. And as I was there, I was kind of like, it turns out I did actually kind of like working for myself. As much as I liked the job, I loved the people. It was a family-owned company, and I liked the work that I was doing. But at the same time, it was like in the back of my mind, I knew that I had the skills and the desire to like build my own business instead of my employer's business. I just didn't know how how to put that all together in a way that like I was excited about, because I really was kind of burned out from the whole freelancing thing,
Hmm.
going from like one client to the next. And so I thought, I'm going to be a blogger. I can start a blog while I have a full-time job. And I kind of left my mind open for ideas for what I would blog about, because I had no idea. I just
What
knew I wanted to do it.
and at
Uh,
this point, how far along? What time frame was this?
so I took that full-time job in 2013.
Okay.
And so my kids were 2 and 4-ish, 2 and 5-ish at the time. I had 2 little girls. And so um, I took that job in 2013, and it was about 6 months in. It was like the summer of 2013 that I thought I could be building my own business. What am I doing here? And that's when the whole idea of like content creation as a way of making money started to kind of like seep into my brain. And I was like, how does this work? Like how do people make money? How much work is involved? Like,
Hmm.
and I knew I had all the skills or the ability to learn the skills, but it took a while to for it all to kind of sink in. And it was later that year I bought a GoPro camera for my family, like for Christmas. I thought like this would be a fun, like a family camera.
Sure.
And I actually bought it for Christmas, but a few weeks before Christmas, we had this big snowstorm. We had like 10 or 12 inches of snow. So I opened up the camera, figured out how to charge it up, and sent my kids outside with it to play in the snow. And they were like just recording themselves. And then later they decorated Christmas cookies. And I put this little video together. And then when they watched the video, when my kids watched the video, they were like in awe of seeing themselves in their own little movie.
Yeah.
I completely pirated music that it was like totally copyrighted, but it worked with the video. And they were just amazed. They weren't like fighting over who gets to hold the iPad. They just wanted to watch the movie over and over again. And
Wow.
I
And
thought
mom said, there's something here.
there's something here. Yeah. I thought, why aren't other people doing this like with their kids? Because what I was noticing was people were like taking pictures and videos of their kids doing whatever, their baseball game, their ballet show, and they're
Mhm.
just throwing it up on Facebook and calling that like good. That's good to go. We'll have
Mhm.
this here forever. And I thought, well, nobody really wants to watch the whole ballet show. What if you made a highlight reel of like just where your kid is doing stuff? Um, and so I just thought, why aren't people doing this? I just figured it out. Um, Maybe I could help other people figure it out. And that's where I started to actually have an idea for content creation, and used my background in web design, so I knew a little bit about SEO and things, did some keyword research, and I was like, oh, look, no one's really creating content about this, about like how to use a GoPro camera as a family camera. Most people are like jumping out of airplanes and surfing and snowboarding, not just, sledding with their kids.
Sure.
So I thought I have a new perspective, and there really wasn't a lot of how to related content around hobby videos. There's like how to be your own filmmaker in 90 days kind of stuff,
Sure.
but not a lot of hobby geared videos. So I started creating content around that. I started my YouTube channel because I thought it'll be easier to teach someone how to create a video using a video rather than a blog post.
Yeah.
And I noticed after a couple of weeks, a couple of months on YouTube and blogging, I was doing both, that people were like leaving comments on my YouTube channel, and there were people subscribing, and I would like go back to YouTube and be like, oh my gosh, there's like people here. There's people watching these videos. Imagine that.
Nice. Yeah.
It didn't really occur to me that you use YouTube to grow an audience at the time. I just thought that's where you put your videos if you have a blog.
Ah.
So I noticed people asking questions in the comments, and I'm like, oh, those would make good video topics for my next video.
Hmm.
And it just kind of was something I stuck with. I told myself, do this for a year and then figure out if you want to keep doing it. But at least give yourself a year to before you decide, like, this is something I'm going to do or not do. So by the end of that first year, which was 2015, was when I first started uploading. I had like 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, and the blog was growing, and it was making a little bit of money, enough that I was like, okay, let's keep going. Let's figure out where this is going to go.
And at that point, was it making money through ad sales, through people clicking on ads?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, because this was before YouTube had their monetization milestones. So
Okay.
I was monetized immediately, and I remember the day I made 12 cents. I was at my
Ooh.
parents' house, and I happened to log into the YouTube creator app, or whatever it is called. And it said I made 12 cents. And I was so surprised that I said out loud, oh my gosh, I made 12 cents. And I was impressed because where did that money come from? I just created it out of nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
And my mom was standing there, and she just looked at me like, are you insane? Like, why are you excited about 12 cents? All this work you're putting into it for 12 cents?
Hmm.
And I was like, no, but I created it. Like, YouTube is giving me 12 cents. Like, do you understand how powerful that is? And then I remember when it was $12.
Mhm.
And now it pays my mortgage. So,
Awesome.
it grew a little bit over time, but it was through AdSense and affiliate marketing that it was making some revenue. And then it was in the beginning of 2016. I thought, I'm going to create a course. I launched a course that made a couple $1,000s or so. I didn't know what I was doing
Mhm.
at the time, but it was enough to keep my momentum and keep my interest.
Yeah.
And then, so partway through 2016, my job was eliminated. My position was eliminated. I lost my job. And so even though the business wasn't making anywhere near my full-time income, but it was making enough that I was like, if I go out and get another job, I'm going to lose all the momentum that I have, because I'm going to have to commute an hour each way to work if I find a
Mm.
job somewhere. And that's my side hustle time. Like, ooh, what do I do? So, I just, talked to my husband about it. Luckily, financially, it wasn't like I had to go get a job. Um, so I said, I'm going to do this full time. And he was like, all right, go for it. So I've been doing that full time ever since 2016, creating YouTube videos, blog posts. I have a couple of courses. I have a membership, and that's where I'm at now.
Awesome. So for for all the people who show up on the internet and say, "Hey, I'll teach you how to do this thing," and they don't actually do it themselves, then they're the people who are actually doing what they teach.
Mhm.
So clearly, you've cracked that code, and you're actually doing what you're doing what you're teaching and talking about.
Right.
That is
Yeah.
fantastic. When you think about how you started and where you've gone, I know that there have been some twists and turns in the road, and how would you describe the way that you've changed your messaging or your audience or your content along the way?
Well, so at some point, into this whole journey, I thought I really wanted to help other people do what I did, which is like start a little thing on the side and grow it. And like, I used to think so that you could quit your job, because that's what I wanted to do. But once I lost my job, I was like, oh my gosh, like, people, you need to get on this before you lose your job, because you might think that your job is secure. You might be working for a family owned company that's been in business for 30 years, and they might decide to move to another state, and poof, there goes your job.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not as secure as I think a lot of people with jobs believe or want to believe that it is.
Right.
And so I shifted my content from like how to use a GoPro and how to create hobby videos to just how to create videos in general for your YouTube channel, for your business, like how to use a camera, not any camera, but how to use a Canon M50 Mark II specifically, how to edit your videos. Like, as you know, video editing, super overwhelming. And it's amazing the topic of video editing can run from like how to import your clips and then add some music and then export, like super simple,
Mhm.
all the way to like editing a television show, right? And so people are at this on this like spectrum of super simple to super complicated, and
And
I love
a lot of times they don't know that spectrum even exists.
exactly. Yes. It's like I need to edit my videos. Okay, what does that mean for you? Like describe to me what you're talking about.
Mhm.
I love breaking it down for people who literally don't know what it looks like inside of a video editor. What are these multiple tracks? Like they just can't visualize it.
Mhm.
I love breaking it down for people in a simple way. So I do a lot of video editing tutorials that are pretty basic, geared for beginners, and mostly geared for people who want to create YouTube videos.
Mhm.
And so I shifted slowly over time from hobby to like business or YouTube related video creation, mostly because that's what I was interested in. After a while, I didn't want to create more GoPro related content because it got kind of boring. They create a new camera every year. The same questions are asked about the cameras every year, and it's like I could keep going with every model and just kind of like regurgitate the same thing over and over again. That would have been so easy. Like looking back now, I think, Meredith, why didn't you do that? That would have been the easiest thing in the world. Like, what's wrong with you? But I just didn't want to. It was not interesting to me at all.
Right.
And so I changed over time, and that's the beauty of YouTube and creation. It's part art. And so you can change and you can evolve and kind of do what lights you up. So that's one way, I guess, that it's changed over time.
Okay. So one of the things you talk about a lot is the idea of conquering your content creation. And so as a beginning of this kind of a topic, what kind of content are you putting out, or what content are you putting out where and why as of right now?
For me personally, I create YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
I play around with TikTok videos. Not a whole lot, but I
Mm-hmm.
like TikTok and Reels and Shorts. We create a blog post for every video that we publish, which is sort of like a little bit of a hidden or like a secret weapon of video creation is how easy it is to create a blog post from that video
Mm-hmm.
and get some search traffic that way and grow your audience that way. And I'm always growing my email list, and those are the main places where I create content right now. And I'm not even consistent with it. I
Oh,
actually haven't published a YouTube video in about 2 months. Every once in a while, I just like take a little break and convince myself it's okay to take a break from YouTube. And then I'll go and log into my analytics and it will be like nothing went down. Like everything's the same. Like the revenue, the views, subscribers, like, oh, it's the same whether I publish every week or take a 2-month break. That's one of the beautiful things and powerful things about YouTube versus some of the other platforms.
and to be fair, for people wondering, is does this apply to me? I mean, granted, you've built a substantial following already. You've built a substantial library of videos, and you already have, I mean, guaranteed you have a certain percentage of those videos that have locked in with the algorithm, and they're
Right.
getting served up 24/7.
Exactly. Yeah.
So those, I mean, and that's the same thing that I have that same percentage of videos on the Story Greenlight YouTube channel. They just keep ticking.
Yeah.
They just keep ticking no matter what.
Yeah. You said the magic word for me, which is library.
Mm-hmm.
That I think a lot of people don't think of YouTube as a library. They think of it like as a social media feed, and I have to keep feeding it. And it's really not. It's a library. Just like fill it with what you want to fill it with. People who are looking for what you have to say or have to teach about, they will find you when they are looking for you. Yeah. So I love thinking about YouTube like a library. I think more people should think about it that way.
Okay. So talking about side hustles, we're talking about side hustles and video. Now, are they automatically related to each other? Or is it just the case of video is the best way to promote your side hustle these days?
I think being a video content creator as a side business
Mm-hmm.
is, to me, I think it's the most powerful way. Like if you are thinking, I want to start something on the side, there's a lot of different side businesses you could start. Like there's a lot of people who have vending machine businesses as a side hustle, or lawn care, things that they can do in their off time. Creating videos and building a business that way is so much more powerful because you don't have to put in, it's not dollars for hours necessarily. You don't have to have 3 hours to go mow your neighborhood lawns every Saturday. You could spend 3 hours creating a video that, again, like we just pointed out, YouTube is a library. That video is going to continue to bring views and people to your channel to build your audience, even when you're not doing it, even when you're
Mm-hmm.
not actively doing it. So I think it's really powerful in that way. One thing that I've been trying to do is stop using the term side hustle
Okay.
and call it a side business, because nothing against the term side hustle. It's just that I think sometimes people internalize the word side hustle as like this thing that I do that doesn't really matter that much. It's just to like make some extra money. And when you're building a business of your own, especially as a content creator, where you're like putting your heart and soul into it, it's one part art, one part science. It does matter. It matters. It's a business. You have a message to share. You have something to say. You have people that you want to help with your experience or your knowledge. And if you call it a side business and treat it like a business, then I think it just kind of puts it in a different sort of priority place in your brain. Like, oh, this is real. This is a business. It's not just some like fun little side hustle that doesn't really affect me whether it is successful or not. You put your time and energy into something, you want it to be successful. Give it the priority to be successful. So I've just been trying to like deprogram my brain from the word side hustle and call it side business instead.
That is so huge, because even and thank you for calling that out, because even just changing one word from side hustle to side business, you are immediately shifting your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because what does a hustle require versus what does a business require?
Right.
Have you experienced people saying, "Oh, side business? Oh, crap." Well, how do you do business? Do your people feed that back to you at any point?
I haven't heard that. But I also haven't. I have on my list of videos to create one where I'm talking about like how I remove side hustle from my vocabulary and I'm using this word instead, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't got any feedback from it, but I probably will if I deliberately point it out, like we just did. Um, so I think for the most part, my audience, my customers, my clients are thinking this is a business. Well, I should say my clients and customers are thinking that way. My
Mm-hmm.
audience who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows what they're thinking? They're just there on YouTube for free content. So, um, uh, now that you asked that question, I'm like, that should probably be the next video that I create.
Well, and it's interesting. You make that distinction between there are people, talking about, okay, let's approach this. Let's think of this as a business. You just made a really important distinction between who is your audience versus who are your
Mhm.
clients or who are your customers.
Right.
How do you distinguish between? Is it just as simple as these people have paid me money, or is it something more specific than that? And how do you get your audience to become clients?
Yeah, so I think there's just a little bit of a mentality shift in, um, making an investment in something. Like my membership is $49 a month. When you pay $49 a month to be to have that like accountability and have somebody kind of like holding your hand, pushing you or pulling you, or I like to think of myself as a camp counselor. I'm kind of like I'm just doing it also, and if you guys like want to come along, I'll try and keep you all safe. And we can just do it together.
Stay out of the poison
Um
ivy.
yeah. And so when you make a financial investment, small or big or medium, it's like you have skin in the game. So you're more likely to hold yourself accountable to build your business, build your channel, get your videos created, whatever it is, that you're working on. And I'm the type of when it comes to, like, marketing, I'm the type of marketer where I'm like, "Look, I have this thing, I have this membership, I have this course. If you want it, here's the link,"
Mhm.
rather than trying to constantly, like, push my whole YouTube audience towards something. They come in naturally, they join my email list every once in a while. I might do a 5-day challenge or something, workshop or something to kind of, like, get people interested in my offers.
Mhm.
Um, that's sort of the general flow of going from the YouTube channel, here's my audience, they're here for the free content. They get on my email list or they find out about a workshop or a challenge. And then if they choose, they become a customer.
Okay. So for people who aren't familiar with how this goes, so you talk about doing a challenge, and is this
Mhm.
something where is this available for anyone to do? Is this a paid thing? Can anyone just show up, or do they have to sign up, or how? And when do you present? At what point do they become a paying customer?
Yeah, so when I have done 5-day challenges, which I've done a lot, but I haven't done any this year yet so far. Uh, It's free. Anyone can come and join. Usually I do a challenge that's like, build your profitable YouTube channel in 5 days kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And we talk a lot about figuring out what video topics to actually create that will grow your channel. Cause a lot of times what you have in your mind and when you're just getting started isn't necessarily the topics that people are searching for or watching. And so you have to figure out, here's all the stuff I want to get out to people. Now here's how we kind of cherry pick from that and determine here are like the 5 videos you could create that are actually going to get people to come to your channel and hear what you have to say.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we work on usually in the 5-day challenge. And then at the end, like day 5 or something of that, I let people know where they can get more information, more support from me, more like my full course, which is called the Spiderweb Strategy, which is kind of like how to create a whole strategy for your YouTube channel, more than just 5 videos.
Mhm.
And we have a Facebook group, so we have like a community support. We have monthly Q&A calls via Zoom. So it's kind of like here's your getting started plan. If you like that, if you're excited about that, and you want my help taking it to the next step, then come join us inside of the Video Pursuit Society. That's kind of how the 5-day challenge works.
Very cool. Guaranteed there are people hearing this and seeing this, depending on which version you're seeing and when, they've never heard of this before. And so for people familiar with online marketing, challenges are they're very common at this point. But man, it's kind of like at different points I've talked about the idea of email. And when people started coming out with software saying, hey, you can write email and you can write them in advance, and you can actually have someone join on a list, and it triggers this thing, and it'll just send your emails out automatically.
Right.
At the time, if you weren't familiar with that, it seemed like black magic. What is this sorcery, you know? And you can send emails out into the future. What? You know? And but for people who are familiar with online marketing, I mean, they're called email autoresponders. But you know, if you're not familiar with these ideas, then you need to be.
Right.
You know? So anyway, so for people who are hearing this and saying, okay, I love the idea of content creation. I love the idea of actually being able to turn it into a side business and think of it and start thinking of it in those terms. Man, this is the idea of doing that kind of a thing is going to be huge for people, I know. So we're thinking about content creation as a side business. And eventually we realize there's a lot of doing that has to be done. And you start looking at all the things that could be done, and pretty soon your head starts spinning. And you say, how do I do all this? Because I have this much to do, like a whole bunch to do, and just a little bit of time, relatively speaking, to do it. And how do you even start wrapping your head around that? How do you start talking to your people about getting any kind of balance of life when you're creating content?
Well, are you talking about now or when I had a full-time job and was doing it as a side business?
Well, you know what? There's the difference between what people are doing now once they're established versus what they did at the beginning. So for people who might be at those earlier stages, how did that work for you in the beginning?
So I initially had the same question of like, how am I actually going to create videos? And I had no idea how long it would take for me to create just one video. I didn't know what I was doing. And so what I did leading up to, I was like, okay, I'm going to launch my channel on, January 1st, 2015. So at the end of 2014, I spent about 3 months or so figuring out what I was going to say in my videos. So I watched other channels. I was like, oh, okay. So she just says, hi, my name is so-and-so. And in this video, I'm going to talk about blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, I guess that's how you open a YouTube video.
Yeah.
So I planned out about like 10 or 12 different video topics and really kind of scripted out the intros and the outros and then kind of bullet pointed my way through the middle. And then I took a week at the very end of the year where I was off of work and my kids went to the babysitter, and I just used that time in my empty house to actually record those videos. So I batch recorded not all of them, but a lot of them, like 8 or 10 of them. And then all I had to do during each week when I was publishing is edit them. And they were pretty simple videos. They were like a talking head intro and outro with a screencast tutorial in the middle. Like I call it a tutorial sandwich. It's like the 2 pieces of bread and then the tutorial in the middle. So it was pretty simple to edit, pretty simple to create overall. Once I had kind of burned through my batch towards, like February, March of that year, I started having to create one video a week every week. And so what I did was, for some reason, I think the first video I published was on a Thursday. So I thought I'm going to publish every Thursday. That's my day.
Sure.
And there was no rhyme or reason other than that's the first time I did it. So, and I still have ingrained in my mind that video publishing day is always on a Thursday. And that rule comes from really no logic at all. But I knew if I'm going to like publish that video on Thursday, then by Wednesday night it needs to be edited,
Mhm.
right? It needs to be done, ready to go, ready like actually upload it and schedule it. So I always just worked backwards, and if it needs to be edited by Wednesday night, then by Tuesday it has to be at least have a rough edit or a rough draft. Some of my videos were simpler than others. So
Mhm.
sometimes I could do the whole thing in an evening, and sometimes I needed to make a rough draft and walk away and then come back the next day and finish it. So then I knew by Monday it would have to be recorded. So by Sunday, I would need to know what I was going to create that week. I had a good list going. I would keep a list going. So I always had kind of like a pool of ideas to pull from. It wasn't like I was just kind of pulling it out of thin air for the week. So I would select something on Sunday, plan it out on my phone, just like doing whatever. I wasn't like sitting on my computer having content creation time. I was just on my phone, figuring out what the intro was going to be and what I needed to cover in the video.
Mhm.
And then what I did every Monday, pretty much every Monday, I would come home from work, set up my camera, record a video, put my camera away, and then go pick up my kids from the sitter. And so it was just like done, recorded. That's all I needed to do. And if I had time later in the evening, I would put that footage on my hard drive and like organize it and make sure I had everything there.
You know what?
But it
I'm
was
going to stop right here just because what you just said there, you actually, not only did you have your regular schedule that you started locking into week after week, but
mhm,
when you said you came home from work
yeah,
and you recorded the video, then you picked up the kids from the sitters. So
yeah,
that meant you couldn't take 4 hours
yes,
to shoot the thing. So you're
yes,
so you're building in time
mhm,
constraints. You're setting
mhm,
yourself automatic deadlines.
mhm.
And that is a really, really big deal. I mean, clearly it worked for you.
It did work, yeah, and it was kind of like if this isn't perfect, and I spent maybe like 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. It was like in my mind, the deadline was if I don't go pick up my kids, they're gonna be crazy, starving little monsters when I do pick them up. Like, so, there wasn't really I mean, eventually there'd be a hard deadline for the babysitter,
Right.
but it was like I would get home from work at like maybe 4:45, and I knew I really needed to go pick them up by 5:30, or they were going to be crazy and hungry. So that was like my window. So if I didn't get it was like done is better than perfect. So there were a lot of times where I was like, I know this is not that great, but it's done and it'll be fine. And there was a lot of piecing together different things when I was editing just to like get all the words right. But yeah, I had that window. So I just record and then put my stuff away and knew that that was done, so that on Tuesday is when I would usually record the tutorial portion.
Mhm.
Not while my kids were at the sitter, but I would wait until later in the evening or whatever, take an hour, and record that part, and then start to kind of like put the rough draft together so that on Wednesday I would have the completed video. And so Wednesday would be my like cram night sometimes if it was a complicated edit, I might stay up until 11 or midnight or something
Mhm.
to get it done. Or sometimes I would say, forget it. I need to go to bed. I'm tired, and I'll publish this thing on Friday. But that's like my that was like my production. What do I want to say? Like it was like my manufacturing process was
Right.
like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, have it be ready by Thursday. And if it's not, no big deal. We'll publish it on Friday. And even then, if we didn't get that done, we can do it on Saturday. Like it's not that big of a deal. But I always had in the back of my mind, I have to do it. If I stop, then I will stop. And this whole project will be over. Like this whole experiment will be done. I need to at least keep the momentum going, even if it's not perfect or even if it's not right on time every single week. Because I just knowing my own behavior, If I stop because it got hard or because it wasn't perfect enough, then it will this whole thing will be done. Well, the whole train will be off the rails and we won't go anywhere at all.
Yeah, I just stopped to write a note because that line right there is such a big deal. Because eventually we do realize that this does get difficult. It's not always the most amazing, incredible thing that we're ever doing,
Yeah.
even if you do love it.
Right.
Even if you do love it. So
Mhm.
just this idea of setting yourself up to have a system where that helps you just keep doing it and keep
Right.
doing it.
Yeah.
So huge.
Yeah.
So when people want to when people want to learn more about you and say, hey, how can I do more of this stuff for myself? How do I start wrapping my brain about this? I know you have something that you can offer some folks there.
Yeah, I have a free download called the Social Video Blueprint, which is essentially my process. I'm giving like a whole Notion template for how to plan your videos. If you're not using Notion, that's okay. But I'm handing over this whole planning workflow template and walking through the process. Of planning and creating a script for yourself, I think is really important. People overlook this
Yes.
as I have a client I was just talking to the other day, and we had this call, and I said, okay, so you're going to script your video, and I have this whole process for like, here's your hook, here's where you talk about this, here's where you talk about that, and here's how you do your outro. And she was like, oh, okay. And so the next time we met, the next week, she was like, so I shot my video. It took me about 4 hours. I had to do it 3 different times. And now I have to
Oh
edit it
no.
and I have to piece all these things together. And I was like, great. So where's your script? And she was like, oh, yeah, I didn't do that. And I was like,
Uh,
why not? She was like, well, I started writing what I was going to say in my intro and I started writing what I was going to cover in the video. And then I was like, well, I know how to do this. Like, I know what I'm talking about. So
mhm.
why should I write it down? And so I was like, "Yeah," and so then it took you 4 hours to shoot it, and now it's gonna take you, like, 12 hours to edit it, right? She was like,
Oh.
"Yeah," and she's like, "Oh, So I said, if you script it out, use this block script process, which I cover in the Social Video Blueprint, then you have a shooting list. You know what you need to shoot. You don't need to shoot more than that, and you don't forget to shoot something. I don't know if you've ever done this, but sometimes I used to be editing and be like, "Oh shoot, I completely forgot to say this really important thing in the video."
Mhm.
Now what do you do? Like, you can't I can never reshoot it because my hair looks different, my makeup looks different, the lighting looks different. And so if you have that shot list, then you don't forget the things you need to shoot, the things you need to say to the camera, or the B-roll that you need to shoot. And then when you're editing, you know what you're looking for in your edit. It's another really common thing is when you're editing to like look for all the bad stuff, like look for all the mistakes and edit out all the mistakes.
Mhm.
But a quicker way is to look for the good stuff. Just look for the good stuff. Don't even watch the
Uh-huh.
mistakes. You don't need to watch the mistakes. That's like a huge waste of time.
Mhm.
So if you have your script and you have like this is my shot list, then you just look for each of those in your edit instead of trying to figure out where you made mistakes and cutting that out. And so, yeah, all of that is inside of the Social Video Blueprint, which is a free download at socialvideoblueprint.com.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And make sure you can go directly there, and you can also hit the link in the show notes or the video description. And for folks wanting to connect further with you, where do they go?
Go to YouTube, search up Meredith Marsh, or VidPro Mom is the name that my channel used to be called. So it's youtube.com/VidPro Mom. And that's the best place to connect with me.
If you like these kind of ideas and discussions and want help applying them to your own content, then you should consider joining us in the Green Room. It is our monthly membership here at Story Greenlight that's all about helping you tell your stories, connect with your audience, and get things done in a community of creators like you. You can access the Green Room for a full month for free. You can get started right now at the link in the show notes or the description below. And I'll see you there.